I was recording birds by call as I walked down the track here, wrens and little grass birds and stuff. In fact, if you do a lot of bird watching in the bush, you do a lot by call. A day like today is not much good, but normally you do a lot by call. And the idea is to make sure you get all the species that are here in the area that you're surveying.
Today's clip is about bird watching. We've seen that the ing can be used for continuous tenses, but ing words can have lots of other uses too. Ing forms the present participle of a verb. Some ing words can also be adjectives, and they can act as gerunds. A gerund is a verb that acts as a noun. Let's look at an example. Here's the sentence, I love swimming. The word swimming is the present participle of the verb to swim. But in this sentence, swimming is a noun. So the word swimming is called a gerund. Listen for a gerund in the clip.
In fact, if you do a lot of bird watching in the bush, you do a lot by call.
Bird watching. Watching is a gerund. It's a verb that's used as a noun. There are many phrases that use gerunds with the verb to go. They are mainly used with recreational activities or things you do for fun. For example, we say go swimming, go bird watching, go dancing. On the weekend, I usually go swimming. This weekend, I'd like to go dancing. Finally today, we're going to look at some sentence stress and rhythm. When we talk about rhythm in English, we mean the beat of the language. The beat of the language comes from the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables or words in a sentence. Some words usually have a strong stress. These are content words, the nouns, verbs, adjectives and adverbs. They're usually strongly stressed and carry the rhythm. Then there are the words that have a weak stress. These are usually the articles, pronouns, prepositions and conjunctions. They're spoken quickly between the strongly stressed words. As well as the different stress on words, the number of pauses you make in your speech will affect the rhythm of your language. It helps listeners tell what is important and what is secondary information. You should practice reading using different beats and see how this affects the meaning. Notice how I can read the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Here, the words I'm stressing are the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. The less important words are squeezed in between the beats. The more squeezed in, the shorter they become. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. 1 and then a 2 and then a 3 and then a 4. And that's all for Study English today. Make sure that you listen out for the rhythm of people's speech. Copying native speakers is the best way to learn the stress and the beat. And I'll see you next time on Study English. Bye. Hello, I'm Margot Politis. Welcome to another episode of Study English, IELTS Preparation. Today we're going to listen to a finance report. It's filled with numbers and amounts expressed in a variety of ways. It's important to be able to understand and describe numerical data using decimals, fractions and currencies. Listen to the day's finance report.
The Australian dollar today, Tuesday the 11th of November, continues to rise against the US dollar, buying just over 70 cents, a 15-year high. Against other currencies, however, the trend is a little different, falling against the pound, closing at 0.425, a slight drop on yesterday, and 0.61 euros. The yen is also strengthening at 71.95 and considerably higher against the greenback at 111.03 yen. The Dow Jones Index closed today at 9,809.79, a fall of 47.18 on yesterday's trading. The Sydney stock market doubled its trading yesterday, with BHP Billiton trading heavily. The latest retail figures showed that turnover grew by 3.2% in the June quarter, the fastest quarterly growth rate for 5.5 years. At the same time, unemployment fell to its lowest level in 12.5 years.
Okay, first we're going to look at decimals and how you express them. Listen carefully again.
Against other currencies, however, the trend is a little different, falling against the pound, closing at 0.425, a slight drop on yesterday, and 0.61 euros. The yen is also strengthening at 71.95 and considerably higher against the greenback at 111.03 yen. The Dow Jones Index closed today at 9,809.79, a fall of 47.18 on yesterday's trading.
In English, decimals are written with a point, not a comma. So we write 4.25, 6.1. When you say the numbers after the decimal point, you say them all separately as individual numbers. So we have 71.95, 47.18, 9,809.79. Notice that a zero is often spoken as O. Practice saying these numbers. 326.01, 4.897, 902.308. Listen again.
Against other currencies, however, the trend is a little different, falling against the pound, closing at 0.425, a slight drop on yesterday, and 0.61 euros. The yen is also strengthening at 71.95 and considerably higher against the greenback at 111.03 yen. The Dow Jones Index closed today at 9,809.79, a fall of 47.18 on yesterday's trading. The Sydney stock market doubled its trading yesterday, with BHP Billiton trading heavily.
You can hear that when using numbers, there are often alternatives and many choices you can make. So, conversationally, we would usually say 111.03, but you will also often hear 111.03. Here, we could say 0.425, 0.425, or even just 0.425. Notice that in North America, people usually say 0, not 0 or O. Okay, now the other way of expressing numbers less than 1 is using fractions. Listen to the fractions here.
The latest retail figures showed that turnover grew by 3.2% in the June quarter, the fastest quarterly growth rate for 5.5 years. At the same time, unemployment fell to its lowest level in 12.5 years.
She uses the most common fraction, a half. Listen to how we say common fractions. A half, a third, a quarter, 2/3, 5/8, 3/4. Notice that once you understand the pattern, you can express any fraction you want. Try these. 7/18, 16/30, 14/40. Okay, now listen again to some of the report. Listen for different currencies.
Against other currencies, however, the trend is a little different, falling against the pound, closing at 0.425, a slight drop on yesterday, and 0.61 euros. The yen is also strengthening at 71.95 and considerably higher against the greenback at 111.03 yen.
There were a number of different currencies mentioned in that clip. The pound, the euro, the yen, the greenback. Let's have a look at them. Lots of countries use a dollar. In Australia, the Australian dollar is usually expressed with the dollar sign. But internationally, it's written like this, AUD. We read this the Australian dollar. In the United States, they use the dollar as well. It's the USD, the United States dollar. But it's often called the greenback because it's green. In Great Britain, they use the pound. It's written GBP, but it's often called the pound sterling. In the European Union, they use the Eurodollar, written like this, EUR. In Japan, it's the yen, written JPY. In China, it's the yuan, written CNY. And the renminbi, RMB. Notice that we write the currency before the number, but we say it after the number. So we read $2 or £4.15. Notice also how we read longer numbers. 3,470 Japanese yen. 192 Australian dollars. Notice that when spoken naturally, the one often becomes a and the and becomes squashed. We don't say 192, but 192. Try this one. 127,322 Hong Kong dollars. Okay, now let's listen to the report again, and then we'll look at another important use of numbers.
The Australian dollar today, Tuesday the 11th of November, continues to rise against the US dollar, buying just over 70 cents, a 15-year high.
Notice that she says Tuesday the 11th of November. Saying simple things like the date can be confusing in English, as the way they're said varies. In Australia, we say the 11th of November or November the 11th. Notice that it's written without the words the or of. For the 13th of February 2005, Australians would write this: 13.02.2005. But in North America, they'd write it 02.13.2005. You'll need to learn these to make sure you don't turn up somewhere on the wrong day. So remember that in Australia, we write the date day.month.year, but in North America, they write month.day.year. And there is even an international standard that says the format should be year.month.day. With numbers, dates and times, there are all sorts of variations. Just make sure you understand the currency, the time and the date, or you could find yourself in all sorts of trouble. And I'll see you soon for more Study English. Bye-bye.